I am Dr. Evil Genius. I represent half of the Talking Shit podcast. We will not be seeing our dear friend Captain Paul today because Captain Paul is on a boat. All right, so what are we talking about here tonight? Society needs shaming to make a comeback. I wanted to give my thoughts on this Wednesday evening before I ship off to bed and prepare to get up stupid early to work with a client. Shout out to that client. I've been seeing a lot on the internets lately, and I am greatly dissatisfied by what I have seen and heard. So, the first thing I want to cover, I just happened to see a live stream from Jessica X. She is a black woman that has a pretty good YouTube channel operating out of the UK. And she is prettier and she sounds sexier than you think. But that's not the point, right? It just so happens that she had one Mike Rashid on her show to debate with her the finer points of modern day men and women. And, for those that don't know, Mike Rashid was on the Fresh and Fit podcast with Myron Gaines and Fresh Prince CEO. And, if you guys have ever seen Fresh and Fit, you understand that the channel is based very squarely on the red pill philosophy. He was there. He promoted himself. And it seemed that when he heard some things that he wasn't really quite in agreement with, he didn't really feel was congruent to what he believed, he made a hasty exit. Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews did a breakdown of a show, I guess, that Mike Rashid hosts, and some other dude was on there looking super beta. And the two of them are sitting there and they are debating the relevancy or the necessity for red pill ideology. And the thing that really got me when I'm listening to these two men speak is that neither one of them had any shame in speaking forcefully on a subject they admittedly had no knowledge of. The dude that Mike Rashid was talking to had never even heard of it. So the two of them are sitting there Googling. They're up on Wikipedia. And they're giving their forceful opinion on something neither one of them knows anything about. Like, seriously, if the first thing you're doing is Googling because you admittedly don't know what you're talking about. See, back in the day, we had something called shame. And that shame would prevent people. Let's just take it back to when we were kids. The shame would prevent you in school if you weren't really quite sure what the answer was. The shame would prevent you from raising your hand. Ooh, ooh, ooh. If you wasn't really quite sure, you didn't want to look like a fucking idiot. So what you did was you kept your fucking hand down. And you wanted to make sure that whatever the answer was, you were 100% confident in your answer because you knew you did the work, you understood the concept, you absorbed the concept, and then you showed understanding. And today, people can get thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers and subscribers to listen to what they have to say. And now we've entered a point where you've got a guy who's got a large following. The people hang on his every word. And he's saying that what men are going through in society isn't real because he hasn't had to deal with these things. And then, oh wait, let me Google this because I don't even know what this is. A proper amount, a healthy amount of shame would have made Mike Rashid close his mouth. He would have closed his mouth. And what he would have done is he would have switched the subject to something else and then say, you know what, I'm going to come back to this later. I've got some research to do. And the reason why I need to do research is because I don't want to talk out of turn and talk on things that I am not qualified to talk about because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. A proper amount of shame would have resulted in that kind of humility that would have allowed him to develop his thoughts properly and then come back to it later. So he was already messing up, calling men betas and the low level threats of violence. Oh, you wouldn't say that to my face because I would respond with violence because I cannot properly attack your arguments. That, sir, is beta. And it doesn't matter how many fights you've been in. It doesn't matter if, you don't feel pain when men hit you. It does not matter. Your behavioral patterns and your inability to let your leadership stand on its own, that's what makes you a beta, sir. You are 5'11", 220 pounds of chiseled, premium grade A American beef, and you're still a beta. You're not a beta because you're small and skinny. You're a beta because you don't lack the proper shame to at least make sure that when you enter into a discussion, you know what the fuck you're talking about. And then when you figure out that you don't know what you're talking about, instead of having the proper humility as a grown man and saying, you know what? I spoke out of turn. Let me do more research first. And then I'll come back and discuss this later. No. He does what most betas do. They double down. You know you're wrong. Or you at least know that what you're talking about, you don't know what you're talking about. But what does the weak beta do? They double down when they know they're wrong. Isn't that something that we know women for? Oh yeah. How many people have heard the trope that women don't know how to apologize or admit that they're wrong? We look at that as a feminine trait. And when we see that kind of feminine trait in a man, we tend to lose a little bit of respect for him. We don't look at that guy as an alpha. So last night, Mr. Mike Rashid doubled down on his ignorance. He went over to Jessica X's platform and made a complete fool of himself. He made a complete fool of himself. Here is a man who is arguing with a woman that men's rights are not needed. This guy is arguing that women are being just oppressed, all the women are being raped, and men are committing men are committing all these crimes against women. Women get treated like total shit in society. The dude has no fucking clue what he's talking about. And she's bringing up valid issues when it comes to domestic violence, when it comes to violent crimes. And and of course he's going back to Google because he doesn't know what he's talking about. So here we are with the triple and the quadruple down. He then proceeds to accuse this woman of wanting there to be no protection for women, when all she's saying is that what you believe isn't even true. You're not even listening to what these men, the lived experiences of these men and the lessons that they've learned. The only thing you're doing, well, look at the comments. Look at the comments. Look at the comments. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of all of the women that get up on Kevin Samuel's show, don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And then when people are calling them out in the comments section, oh my God, look, those people hate. Those are hateful people. Look at the people in the comments. Look at the people in the comments. And then when people call you out on your beta tendencies, well, you wouldn't say that to my face. You wouldn't say that to my face because I'm super manly and nothing can ever hurt me. Your argument held no water whatsoever. Your numbers are wrong because you read out the first numbers you can find on Google. And why did you do that? Because you don't know what you're talking about. And you want to talk about, well, that's not a real thing. And that's not a real thing. See me. And then he goes on to explain a situation where he has to lock himself in the bathroom to get away from a violent woman in a situation he knew he couldn't win. But these issues aren't real. The dude is a victim of at least one false accusation that I know of. But these men's issues aren't real. The guy is living through some of these issues. He doesn't have to live through the others, but proclaims that these issues aren't real because they haven't happened to him. But then some of those actually happened to him. But, it doesn't really matter. Because, this thing is... A real alpha first understands what's in his wheelhouse and what isn't. That a real alpha. Not a fake alpha. Not somebody who graduated high school at 130 pounds and then had to, get your fucking weight up so that, the girls would notice that you exist. A real alpha doesn't have to take steroids to try to get as big as he possibly can. A real alpha says, you know what? That's not my wheelhouse. And I have the humility enough to know, you know what? I probably shouldn't be talking on certain situations until I do my proper diligence. That's a real alpha. A real alpha doesn't need to threaten violence when he's being called out on his ignorance. Do you know what a person does when they're called out on their ignorance, a real alpha? They say, you know what? I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. Let me make sure I do my proper research. I'll be back. That's a proper alpha. We need shame to make a comeback in society because what is the price to pay for not knowing what the fuck you're talking about and then spewing off at the fucking mouth? We saw that with Donald Trump for 4 years, where he consistently didn't know a goddamn thing he was talking about and just shooting off at the fucking mouth. There was no penalty to be paid. You hear these women shooting off at the fucking mouth about what they think men want and what they think men should want, and they single as shit. Well, I can run my mouth without fear because you don't even have to make sure that you know what you're talking about to get paid to talk about shit. Shout out to James from the internet. James from the internet responded to some weird cockamamie shit that Tucker Carlson put out there. And Tucker Carlson is trying to craft this narrative, right? About, person number 2 and all this garbage. Doesn't know a single thing what he's talking about. But he gets up on there on Fox News and talks a whole bunch of shit to people that people then take as gospel. Now, let's not forget that last year, he was involved in a lawsuit where his lawyers, and Fox News made the claim that people do not rely on Tucker Carlson, rely on what he says, because people don't expect to hear that. They don't expect him to know what he's talking about. So Fox News pays him probably 8 figures a year to not know what the fuck he's talking about. But since there's no shame, you can say and do whatever you please now. Since there's no shame, he can get up there and make millions of dollars a year. Spouting off wild shit. Talking with an authority as if he knows what he's talking about. You see, back in the day, a journalist would think 10 or 15 times before saying some shit on the air because a retraction is embarrassing. This is an interesting comment from IWH. Welcome to the show. People being shamed is a two-edged sword. People can be shamed into being more of a go-along, get-along sheeple. Absolutely true. But I'm not talking about peer pressure. You have to believe what I believe because I don't even believe what I believe. You see, a person who is very centered in what they believe, they don't have to proselytize. They don't have to convince you to go along with what they're doing. If somebody wants to use drugs and thinks that that's the best thing for them, they don't need to go on a campaign to advertise all the good things about doing drugs. They would just do their fucking drugs. But you can tell that somebody is not comfortable in doing what they're doing when they have to try extra and double and triple and quadruple and quintuple and sextuple extra hard to convince you to go along with their side. So it made me feel embarrassed to listen to a man advocating against men in an argument against a woman. A man that I used to value the opinion of. And Mike Rashid. I cringed the entire time he was on her platform. I felt massive waves of embarrassment and shame on his behalf. Because to listen to somebody spew ignorance with their chest is a very painful thing for me to watch. And I said so in her comment section. That was a very, very painful watch. Anytime I hear somebody speaking on subjects that they are not knowledgeable on with authority, It is extremely embarrassing to me. I get up on this mic and I make sure I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Episode in, episode out. This is 17 episodes so far of the Talking Shit podcast. We've done over 90 episodes of Black Power Magic Hour on Act.tv. And I make sure that anything that I'm not saying in jest can be backed up with quantifiable evidence. This guy gets hundreds of thousands of views and sits up there looking all smug with no care whatsoever of whether or not he should actually know what the fuck he's talking about before opening his fucking mouth. It's embarrassing. And I understand that a lot of fighters and a lot of bodybuilders, we know that they're not the sharpest tools in the drawer. A lot of them would tell you that. Anybody who voluntarily takes head injuries, we tend to say, you know what, they're probably not the sharpest tool in the shed. But it was a low moment to hear a guy spouting off womanist rhetoric without even checking to find out if any of it was true. And then anytime he is actually countered with real information that's accurate, well, I don't know about that. That hasn't been my experience because, I'm 5'11", 220 pounds, and nobody would ever Oh, wait, but you have at least one false accusation that you had to weather that came from a woman. But that's not a big deal, though. We've got... every single thing he said was wrong. Like, I tried to see, well, maybe he would be right about this, or maybe he would be right about that. But the dude basically spent the entire time on Jessica X's platform either spewing shit that he had no knowledge of, being successfully countered, and then his only response was, well, I don't know that experience. And then whining and complaining about the comment section. That's what he did. None of that sounds alpha, sir. Those are beta tendencies. Am I half your size and 4 inches taller? Yeah. But it doesn't change the fact that you have beta traits. And a proper dose of shame would have prevented you from opening up your mouth and looking like a Derek Jackson pandering buffoon. Do you know another guy that's probably half your size? Elon Musk. Yeah. There are a whole bunch of people who are half his size, but they're alphas. You know how we know that they're alphas? Because they get alpha results. They grow massive companies because they make sure that they look at the data accurately and then make decisions and proclamations off of accurate data. And they didn't have to take steroids to be 230 pounds of muscle to become alpha. They just knew, that in order to get to alpha, they had to be the best at whatever the fuck it is that they're doing. And you know how you not get there? By talking about shit you have no fucking business. And the minute Elon Musk started talking about shit that he had no business talking about when the COVID pandemic spread to the United States, people lost respect for him. But do you know how Elon Musk responded to that? He got in touch with an expert. He didn't double and triple and quadruple down on ignorance. He got in touch with an epidemiologist. And he sat back and said, you know what? I don't know everything there is to know on this subject because I'm an engineer. I'm a different kind of scientist. I don't know everything there is to know about virology and epidemiology. So let me take several fucking seats and then talk to somebody who actually knows what the fuck they're talking about. That's alpha, folks. Mike Rashid could probably knock Elon Musk into a coma with one shot. But sorry, sir, you're still beta compared to somebody like Elon Musk, and you're twice his size. Why? Because Elon Musk has the behavioral pattern of an alpha. You, sir, Mr. Rashid, you have the behavioral pattern of a beta. And if you had just a little bit more shame, people would still see you as an alpha. An alpha seeks out their weakness to correct it. That was not Mike Rashid last night. I'm going to talk out of ignorance. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I'm bigger than you and I can beat you up. Beta! Sir, shame would do you some fucking good. Shame would do you some real fucking good. You need shame in your life, sir. Let's talk about some other people that really, really, really need to understand. Yeah, so yeah, we need to talk more. We need to talk more shame. Okay. We need to talk more shame. Because if society had just a little more shame, just a little, we wouldn't get stories like this. Rebel Wilson photo sparks concern among followers. Now, concern is a good thing, right? You want to make sure that the people that you respect or that you idolize or follow or whatever, you want to be sure that they're okay, right? I don't know what it is with this fucking IBM bullshit. They're really trying to force these fucking ads. This is Rebel Wilson in a bathing suit, okay? Now, you can tell around here, you know, let's just say that the waves aren't all in the water. You know, she's got some waves here. Looks like a little bit of sand dunish here. But if you remember what Rebel Wilson used to look like, and then you look at her now, there is no question who you're going to be looking to smash. No question. Okay? Rebel Wilson has been documenting her fitness journey on social media for more than a year, and a recent post has some of her followers worried. She looks like this now, and they're worried for her. The Pitch Perfect star posted a production still on her verified Instagram account, which shows how much weight she has lost, writing in the caption, "Hey babe, you got this. And I know it's hard right now. I know you're trying to deal with stuff. But let's keep getting up every day and crush it. Work out. Hydrate. Fuel your body with quality food. Show your brilliant brain and your big heart. Remember the vision. Love you." People are worried about her well-being because she's working out. She's hydrating. She's fueling her body with quality food. They're worried about her, folks. Why? Because they look at what she's able to do. They look at her as shaming them. We need to keep up with this bullshit rhetoric about unrealistic standards of beauty. You see, I'm 300 pounds and, everybody should just be attracted to me because, I'm 300 pounds and, not everybody can fit into a size 0. When a very, 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 very small amount of women fit into a size 0. And those women, generally speaking, are not seen as the most attractive options. Men routinely look at size 4, size 6. For some of us, we'll even look at size 8. But somewhere in the 4 to 8 category, that's kind of like what we men look at. And the healthiest categories would be in that 4 to 6. Not 0, not 2, and definitely not 16. Rebel Wilson was rocking that 16 not all that long ago, but a year and a half of doing the right thing. I mean, if you look at her arms, right? If you look at her, near her collarbone area, if you look at around her face, it looks like her skin has healed from being overstretched from too much subcutaneous adipose tissue. Fit shaming. But, body positivity, what is more positive than doing something positive for your body? What's more positive than that? Okay. Rebel Wilson has everybody worried about her well-being because she's working out. She's hydrating and fueling her body with quality food. A few asked if the actress was doing okay. And one noted, people forget famous people have normal people struggles too. Does this bitch look like she's struggling? No, you're struggling. And you want her to continue struggling so that you have an excuse to not do the work. Here is a woman who didn't do any lap band surgeries. She made it very clear how her body got changed. The same shit. This is never since the beginning of human history. This right here is always going to be the road to success for personal health. Could you imagine? You're in the gym, right? You've chalked up your hands. You're staring at the bar. You're staring at the calluses on your hands that you created, getting stronger. You look at the bar. The bar now has 10 pounds over your previous rep maximum. And you're going after the heaviest lift of your life. And you step up to the bar. And you press your feet down. And then you move that backside. The weight is moving. It's moving a lot faster than you thought that it would move. And then you lock your hips out. And you're standing there. You've now hit a new 1 rep maximum. And you put the bar down on the ground and you start celebrating. And then everybody in the gym comes over to you. Damn, man, I feel so bad for you. Are you okay, man? You know, you know, we're all struggling, man. Is that the proper response? No, but that is the response we're getting in society today. That's what we're getting in society today. People are now mourning you when you're doing something good for yourself. They feel bad for you because you've gotten the proper shame, because Rebel Wilson probably didn't feel great being the overweight chick. Oh, we need a fat chick. Call up Rebel Wilson. Rebel Wilson wants to be attractive, wants to be in some of those other roles that the Scarlett Johanssons of the world have been getting for a decade. I'm pretty sure she would like a role that Anna Kendrick would get like this. But the thing is that people look at the work. People are looking at the work that she's done as an indictment of their own character, as they should. But because we've got all this Lizzo bullshit, fat girl summer and, blah, blah. We have women, and the leading cause of death among women, besides womanism, is heart disease. Yeah, heart disease. Heart disease takes out women. Heart disease takes out women more than any other cause. But you're worried about someone shaming you because you're a tub of lard and looking like Humpty Dumpty before his great fall. A proper amount of shame would have you doing what Rebel Wilson is doing. Working out, hydrating, fueling body with quality food. But the fact of the matter is, you're lazy. You don't want to do the work. You want to have all the accolades. You want to have all the benefits of the hard work without doing the hard work. You want to be known in society as a success and as integral to society, but the jobs you do, we can do without them. As we saw at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, all the window dressing jobs that don't mean anything, that society can do without, that we can survive without, those are the jobs that were lost first. But sure, you're overweight. You've got a bunch of cats, dogs, and gerbils. And you should be held in the highest esteem, on the highest pedestals, for not putting any real work in. Can't work with a man. Can't work with a trainer. Barely can work with your coworkers. And you're mad at Rebel Wilson for being a rebel and rebelling against your body positivity, which is meant to make you feel positive about doing negative things to your body. It's absurd. The only thing that women had left was shame. The only thing that people really had in the public eye was shame. Did you guys look at the look on Brian Williams' face after he was found out that he was lying about his time as a war correspondent? In a lot of those situations, he actually stole stories from other people that he overheard, and he wasn't actually there. Did you see the look of shame in his face as he had to, basically his career was murdered at that point? That's the kind of shame that we need back in society. You should feel fear about lying. You should feel fear about talking about things you have no idea of what you're talking. You should have shame whenever you see somebody who should have had shame and then properly use the shame to become a better version of themselves. You should feel that shame and then maybe ask Rebel Wilson, well, what did you do? Because obviously, as fat as you were, and as fat as you're not, obviously this beauty standard, the beauty standard is not so unattainable after all. It's not so unrealistic after all. It only took some discipline. It took a commitment to doing the work. And I can tell you wholeheartedly, not only is it well, this has never been an issue. Shaming men for anything will always continue. You never have to worry about, because the word deadbeat is thrown around pretty liberally in today's society. You never have to worry about this. Not to mention the fact that most men don't abandon their children. A lot of these men are removed from their children's lives by the woman when the woman cannot effectively maintain control over the man because he doesn't want to be with her anymore. There aren't guys who are dropping seeds and then saying sayonara. And there are a lot of guys who are paying through the nose and through the kidneys, and they're still called deadbeats, and they're still called names, and they're still not allowed to see their kids, even when court order that they be allowed to see their kids. Yeah. Shaming of men, I don't think that's ever going to go away. Even when the shame is not even, warranted. I mean, we just saw a man named Mike Rashid who got up on a woman's platform to argue with her incorrectly in an attempt to shame men incorrectly. Proudly incorrectly. Ladies and gentlemen, we need more shame. We need more shame. Not the type of shame that makes people feel like, like they have to self-terminate. Not the kind of shame that feels like bullying and piling on. We need the kind of shame that spurs people on to kind of stay within a certain bounds from an ethical standpoint. To make sure that you don't go too far to the right or too far to the left. Yes. Queen Cersei, remember her? Shame. Shame. I want you to think about this, people. I want you to think about the good that the proper amount of shame could do for your life. Because yo, the shit that I'm seeing, in society today, don't let this be you. There are a lot of people looking for excuses to not be the best version of themselves. Even the people who physically look like the best version of themselves, in their minds, they're not trying to be the best version of themselves. Don't let that be you. To finish up, I want to remind y'all to follow us on social media, please. If you're on the Twitter, the Narsagram, the Twitch, talkin_sh_t. That is at talkin. All right. You see it there? Are there any news stories you want me to cover? Anything going on in your life personally you want us to cover on the show? Talking Shit Podcast LLC at gmail.com. We have another UFC fight night that is going to be pretty cool. That happens on Saturday, the Filthy Casual MMA watch party. When I figure out what fucking time that is, we will be on 15 minutes prior to the start of the first fight. Okay. So I want to thank everybody that, comes through our podcast on a regular basis. I will not forget who you are. And when things start to expand and get better, believe me, when it comes time to showing the proper recognition, believe me, we're going to do that here on the Talking Shit Podcast. Because we are going places. You know why? Because we're willing to do the work. And we feel enough shame to at least know what the fuck we're talking about before flapping our fucking gums. Or at least, when we don't do that and it's in jest because, we're talking shit. Right? So, I want to wish all of you a... wait a minute first. I don't know if Jimmy Dean is trolling, but Captain Paul is not a guest. He is actually the co-host of the show. He just doesn't always co-host the show. Because he's on a boat. Doing boat stuff. With stuff. So, on behalf of the great Captain Paul, this is Dr. Evil Genius. We will see you for TSP episode 18.